So we're going to be doing an installation of LX 570 sliders by Metaltech 4x4. These are really special sliders. The way that they interact with the frame, they're the only slider that I'm aware of on the market that actually mounts the way we mount how this goes together. First we're going to be doing is doing the teardown and removing the factory step. So a T30 socket to remove the small step bolts on the wheel wells. So we're going to take the guard bar off, which protects the globes. And there's a bunch of individual bolts that are on here, 12mm headed bolts. So we're going to go ahead and start pulling all those off, and we're going to take this bar completely off the truck. The factory guard for the automatic ride height control along the frame, no longer need it. So we're going to come in and release the electrical. This is for the step light, the wiring that turns on and off the little lights on the step lights. So we're going to push this in here and pull up, and it disconnects that way. Next, we're going to take the bolts out of the bracket that's holding the steps to the body. Once the step is away, we'll go ahead and put the bolts back in again just to fill the holes. This is loose now. It's being held by clips that are on the side, so in order to give us better leverage to be able to pop this free, I'm going to go ahead and take the brackets off the lower part of this aluminum channel, and it's going to be a 10mm headed socket, and it's just 2 bolts per bracket. So pop the doors open, those brackets are off. This is held on with just a bunch of little push clips. So I'm going to pull this away, and it's going to come right off the truck. This next step is optional. They're taking the factory rockers, and they have the steps built into them. And you can actually cut the steps off, giving you some rockers to snap back on. Some people will get a set of 200 series rockers and snap them on. Other people will take the 570 rockers and do as we're doing here. Fine line tape them off, cut them, and then go ahead and put them back on again. So we're going to come down the frame, and we're pulling all of these bolts away from the frame that have threaded inserts into the frame. And every single one of these becomes a mounting point that the subplate's going to go up behind there and get captured. So Lexus and Toyota gave us a lot of great mounting points. This is the rear brake line for the e-brakes, and we're going to release it and pull it off. And then once it's off, we're going to use our little drop bracket we've included in the kit. It's going to bolt on the stock point and come down. It just lowers the bracket down, so the line's going to go through the rear support a lot cleaner. Then on this bracket, this little tab here, just go ahead and flatten that out so we can go ahead and put that back up here so it bolts right on there, right there. Next, we're going to take the subplate, which goes between the frame and all the accessories on the side of the frame, and we're going to slide it up behind those accessories and then line those bolt holes up. Feels like that's there.
Yep, as well here.
So we're going to sink a couple of screws just to...
I've got the weight.
So we have the sub bracket on the frame right now, tentatively on the frame. We've gone in and we've put a bolt in the front to catch the front, make sure it's against the front part of the frame. The underside is touching the underside of the frame. We got a mid bolt in, then we got one in the back there that we put in. And all that's doing is it's holding us up right now, so now we have the ability to come in and locate where we're going to be putting the nut certs in down below, so we can put the 1/2-inch bolts that go in on the underside of the subplate. And we're doing the drilling with the sub bracket in place. And then once we've made our pilot holes, we pull the sub bracket off, set it to the side, come in, drill our finish holes, and we go ahead and install our nut certs using the nut cert tool. Now, the tool we're using here, we have a separate video that shows detail on how to use nut cert tools, but what we're doing is putting the 1/2-inch 13 nut certs in the bottom of the frame, and then going ahead and coming in and putting those 1/2-inch 13 nut certs in with the sub bracket back in place. We're going to come in from the side of the frame and start reinstalling all those factory bolts that we removed earlier.
And now we're just remounting all those components back to the frame. This is where some gear wrenches are kind of handy. It can get a little tight in the upper areas, but it does fit. Next, we're going to grab the rear support plates and slide them up in the frame in the back. That plate is just sandwiched against there. You can see the bolt holes coming through. This is where you're going to use this little anti-crush spacer, and that's going to go behind the plate next to the suspension mount. And there's a hole right there, and then I'll just take right in there. And then that's where you're going to grab your rear brace. This brace is going to go up here at this angle, just like that. And so I'm going to use 2 of the long bolts up at the top, and then I'll use the big 1/2-inch bolt at the bottom through the suspension there. And backside is going to get a washer, lock washer, and nut. So when you put the bolts into the sub bracket back into the frame, anywhere along the bracket here that's unsupported, where there's not like an accessory part, you're going to use one of the grade 8 washers we provided. And then in the areas where you're putting an accessory back on, the accessory itself acts as the washer, so we don't need to add another washer to it. So you just put those directly in. Next, we're going to grab the main slider body that's got the mounting tabs hanging off of it. And the mounting tabs interact directly with the sub bracket. We're going to put the 3/8 16 grade 8 bolts through with a washer on each side, a lock washer, and a nut on the opposite side, and we're going to torque those down to 44 foot-pounds apiece. Those bolts will be locking the slider main body to the sub bracket. Now the slider main body is bolted to the sub bracket on the frame, we're going to go ahead and grab the stone guard with the dimple die plates. Now they're going to go up, and we're going to use stainless steel button head bolts to bolt them into the legs coming off the subplate, and then also onto the tabs that are along the slider body. It's a full box structure.
Where are you? There you are. All right. There you are. Yep, go ahead.
Once we're done with that, we're going to come back and just double check all of our nuts to make sure everything's tight and it's ready to go. Once completed, the entire slider system for the LX570 is a completely integrated guard that bolts directly to the truck with no modifications. Protects all of the globes and all of the special hydraulic lines for the automatic ride height system. Once they're installed, the 2-stage rub rail with a kick out in the back will help push the truck away from obstacles, helping save your quarter panel. The top deck of the entire slider is flat, and when the doors are open, it's a really nice step point to get into the truck. Yet these are genuine rock sliders meant for hard use.